Okay, you should be seeing my screen now. Is that correct?
We are.
Yes.
All right, fantastic. This is going to be quick, but I wanted to give some explanation on the pre-staging of strike teams, some of the background and why it exists. So what you're looking at right now is wildfire trends in the West. If you don't already know, the 5-year rolling average of it has been increasing substantially, as most of our large fires have been in recent history. And here is your 5-year sum out of the CAL FIRE database. And you can see 2026 and 2020, we've had this massive up ramp, this trend in large fires and the amount of acreage is burned. It's a trend that we've all been watching very closely as professional firefighters. And one of the things that we know that's really impacting this is the change in the climate. And that is the fact that we're having longer droughts and less precipitation and hotter air. So this is a publication out of Nature magazine in 2019 by Golden and Bales. This graph shows clearly that as the trends have been going from 1985, you'll frequently have these upruns of precipitation followed by colder air, and they'll go in a pattern. But as we start to get into the later part of the graph, the hot air just stays higher and higher, and the precipitation continues to drop. And what that is causing is an exaggeration of what we commonly know in this area as Diablo winds, or in the Southern California area, they'll call the Santa Ana winds. So what typically happens in this process is you'll have a high pressure buildup in the Great Basin area. And what that will do is that will reverse the winds from coming off the ocean up into our hillside. Instead, they'll be coming from the greater basin area. And as the winds blow across the desert, they get really hot and really dry. And this is a normal process for California, but as the trends have been changing, they have been getting hotter and drier and more frequent. So that's why we are continuing to see such increase in temperature and where we live. This increase in temperature is causing what the forestry department is calling mass tree death. If you're looking at this animation going past you right now, you'll see a satellite photo of tree deaths in California going from 2014 to 2016 out of 2017, 2018, 2019. So the trees are dying because the precipitation is low and the wind is so hot and dry, which creates a lot of fuel. Currently, right now, we're at roughly 1.47 million dead trees, 147 million dead trees, right? So that affects our back Wildcat Canyon and our Tilden Park. So with that, you'll have some policy changes that are coming out of the state of California, mostly out of OES. This is a screenshot of the document that came out in 2019. This was largely because of some of the larger fires that happened in Northern California that did not have pre-staged or upstaffed units. Now, pre-staging and upstaffing units when you have high threat days is very common in Southern California and in the Central Basin, but some agencies missed that message and got caught off guard, and there were some substantial fires. So 2019, Cal OES published this document with some guidance to help agencies like ourselves determine when we should pre-stage. And we can actually request OES, the county will do this for us, they'll do a request to OES to fund the pre-stage strike team. So what they will do is they'll see a high threat day coming and they will fund the staging of pre-stage strike teams, which we've done in Kensington before. And that's when we fill up a bunch of people at Station 65. This is part of their rubric that they use to determine what a high threat area looks like. Now, this is actually a weighted average calculation. So it's too complicated to go into right now, but what they're looking for is a mix of high temperatures and low relative humidity and live fuel moisture, right? That's how much water is in the live fuel, the brush and the trees. And they'll come up with a score, and they'll either be a moderate event, a severe event, or extreme event. Well, each one of these types of events calls for different levels of resources requested. And for a moderate event, if you get a score between 1.6 to 1.9, you'll get the minimum of one OES or local government engine strike team of any type, or one task force. What that effectively means is, at a moderate event, when those conditions are mixed together, they will pre-stage a strike team, preferably on our hill out of Station 65. And that's when you're going to get 9 people in that station, right? So the goal is to get 4 people on 2 pump and rolls. So that's a total of 8 people, right? 1 on each type 3. And then a command unit. The command unit is the battalion chief. They're essential because the other type 3s will be engaged immediately in firefighting, and they kind of get lost in the forest for the trees, right? They get lost in the trees for the forest, and the command unit is there to request additional resources and coordinate their attack. So you'll get 9 people in this station. And as the pre-stage strike teams have come in kind of rarely over the last few years, they're becoming more and more common. As we get hotter and drier, these, if I back up, these mix of events are becoming more and more common. So you're going from a few days a year to close to doubling that each year. So the space in that station, when I say you're probably looking at 9 people in that station more frequently, it's based off of this data and this rubric that comes out of Cal OS. So that's the end of my presentation and quick explanation for you. I hope that answers some of your questions. And if you have any questions, I'm available. Thank you.